troubled emotions and a tight economy, the preoccupations of EastEnders in half an hour. First on BBC One, another Watchdog special exposing the potential dangers on holiday.
Tonight, a second Watchdog holiday programme. We'll be reporting from popular holiday destinations about how to make sure your holiday doesn't end up a disaster.
There's something about being on holiday that gives you that have-a-go mentality. You try sports you'd probably never try at home. Go to any Mediterranean resort this summer and you'll see people hanging under a parachute off the end of boats. The sport of parascending is the latest craze.
In November 1991, on holiday with friends in Paphos, Cyprus, Dorothy and Tom Lucas were introduced to parascending. Dorothy was keen to try it.
Actually having a go at this parascending was a thing that she was going to boast about for the rest of her life, that she'd achieved something that no one believed it possible from her.
Tom Lucas went to stand near this fortress at the harbour mouth to video his wife parascending past, but she was flying too low and much too close to the shore. There was a stone buttress ahead of her. As she came over, her feet caught the top, the parachute lost height, and Dorothy fell onto the rocks below.
It's hard to believe, but I didn't realise at first that it was my wife. I was hoping against hope that it wasn't, but sure enough, when I dropped the video and made my way towards her, I realised that it was my wife.
Dorothy was still attached to the boat. Instead of cutting the tow line, the boat driver sped forward, dragging Dorothy face down across the rocks. Before the boat could stop, her head hit a large boulder. A few minutes later, she died from her injuries. 12 months on, in Cyprus, Tom Lucas attended the inquest. The coroner recorded a verdict of accidental death and said,
"Due to the lack of legislation, this occupation is exercised by anyone indiscriminately of experience and without the existence of any regulations concerning the safe operation of the craft and parachute."
The coroner called for improved safety regulations. That was October 1992. Mary Thompson and her husband Philip went to Paphos in 1993.
When you're out on holiday, you're sat on the beach, laying on the beach in the sun. It's a very casual holiday atmosphere, warm and sunny, everybody's enjoying themselves. And you're sat there watching other people parasailing. And it looks so easy. The boat's out on the water, it's warm, sunny, the weather's calm. And people are floating in the sky, parasailing, and it just looks so easy and it looks so safe.
Philip Thompson went parascending with a boat operator just outside his hotel, Dino's.
Fly with us. It doesn't matter if you're 5 or 95 years, we will take good care of you.
Somebody else on the boat with me pointed out that there was a sandstorm developing on a headland not far away. And more or less, as he had said that, the wind with us got up very strongly. The boat was being tossed about all over the place, and my husband was being tossed in the air.
The force of the wind had taken the boat towards the land, pulling Philip even closer to the cliffs. Then the line attached to the parachute snapped. Philip was blown across a small jetty, crashing into a harbour sign. He dropped onto the rocks below. He
fell behind this small harbour wall, and we all assumed that he had fallen in the water within this harbour area, although we knew there would be the odd boat, whatever, in there. We, at first, did not see this as a great problem because we had hoped, well, he'd fallen in the water, somebody would have rescued him. as we drove into the entrance of the harbour, we then saw him laid on rocks. We got out of the boat and realised that obviously he was very poorly. He was still alive, but he was only just breathing, and there was a doctor with him.
Philip Thompson was rushed to Paphos General Hospital. An hour later, he died from his injuries. Mary Thompson returned to Britain. Philip's body was flown home to be buried. She heard no more from the Cypriot authorities until 2 days before the inquest was due to begin. Mary wasn't able to go and give evidence, but this is what she would have told them.
He was actually sailing in the air above the shoreline at the time of the accident. Had we been sailing originally much further out to sea, at a much safer distance, even though I acknowledge that the wind and the weather took us towards the land, another 50 metres further out to sea to start with, and my husband would have been 50 metres away from where he fell, and he would have fallen in the water and not fallen onto the rocks.
The inquest lasted 1 day. When Mary received the findings from Cyprus, she saw the coroner had blamed the freak weather conditions. To her dismay, no one was held responsible for Philip's death. In Britain, where the sport of parascending was developed, there are tough regulations and licensing. Everyone on a boat has to wear a life jacket. Anyone in the air must wear a helmet. Plus, there are strict guidelines on keeping boats a safe distance from the shore. On a coastline like Paphos, it would be 600 metres. The sport is regulated by the British Hang Gliding and Paragliding Association. Cliff Grimshaw is one of their safety examiners. We took him to Paphos last August. Posing as a tourist, he checked boat operators along the coast. Dino's the company Philip Thompson flew with. They kept the boat well away from the shore, but Cliff was worried about the condition of the parachute.
It had rips in it. Although it had been sewn up and repaired, it was very bad. The canopy should have gone back to the manufacturer and been properly repaired. They are so casual. They never asked if I could swim. I've only got to stand up and take a photo, and he has to do a quick turn to avoid something, and I'm gone. I've got no life jacket, he don't know if I can swim, and you've got a parascender in the air.
Without a safety helmet. Hilda's, Dorothy Lucas, flew with them.
The parachute that they was using when I went out in the boat, it really belonged in the dustbin. There was several holes in it, very bad repairs on one, it's terrible. And they was actually bringing this parachute right over the breakwater rocks and right over the coast. It's incredibly dangerous.
Cliff Grimshaw was appalled by this company's disregard for safety. Here, parascenders not only flew directly over the coast, their feet were dragged through water full of submerged rocks.
Words defy me, really. I just couldn't believe that after the accident that's happened, they were still operating exactly the same as though nothing had ever happened.
Mary Thompson had taken out holiday insurance through her travel agent, Lun Polly. But after her husband's death, Bishopsgate Insurance refused to pay for his body to be flown home. The reason? Lun Polly's holiday care insurance stated,
"The insurers shall not be liable for claims arising from flying or any other hazardous pursuit."
And that included parascending. As it happens, the Thompsons also had annual travel insurance included in their Guardian Royal Exchange home contents policy. But Mary Thompson couldn't claim on that. The policy did not cover
death arising from the insured person taking part in parachuting.
Eventually, Lun Polly agreed to overlook the terms of their policy and made a special one-off payment to allow Philip's body to be flown home. Mary Thompson then had to cancel a skiing holiday, which the couple had already booked. The Guardian Royal Exchange would not pay the cancellation charges because Philip's death in a parascending accident again voided the insurance.
When you take out a policy, it isn't obvious which activities you're insured for. We contacted the top 5 travel agents about their standard insurance package. The results are worth knowing before you go on holiday.
Basic policies taken out with Going Places, Thomas Cook, AT Mays and Co-op Travel all cover activities like banana rides and water skiing, as well as parascending. But at Lun Polly, who use Bishopsgate Insurance, to get the same cover, you have to take out their extra activity care insurance. That's another £7.90 per person for 2 weeks. Add that to the cost of basic cover, and their travel insurance becomes the most expensive of the top 5 travel agents. Everyone's picture of the perfect Greek holiday, and the best way of getting around the islands is by motorbike. But Watchdog has discovered the number of fatal accidents involving motorcyclists in Greece has increased by 70% in the last decade. Every year, 80 British tourists are seriously injured in motorbike accidents. 1 in 10 are killed. Dr. Andreas Sordinas is a surgeon. He's worked at the Corfu General Clinic for 20 years and has treated hundreds of British holidaymakers involved in motorbike crashes.
We used to stop all non-urgent operations just to be able to cater for these accidents. And it creates a medical problem. Towards the end of the season, sometimes the staff will be a little unnerved by these people coming by the dozens, and perhaps sometimes not give even the necessary sympathy to the people.
It's hot and sunny, so people ride around the islands wearing shorts, perhaps a t-shirt, but no helmets. Under Greek law, however, motorcyclists must wear a helmet. It's compulsory, and so is a driving licence. The problem is the law is not enforced. Everyone Watchdog filmed was breaking it. When we visited bike hire shops, most of them didn't have helmets to rent. Eventually, we found one that did.
If you wanted a helmet, we have helmets. Great. It's up to the person. Some people like one and some people don't. You don't need one here. It's not the law.
You don't need one.
No.
You don't need one. Okay.
The British don't bother.
No.
But some of the Germans that like to have helmets.
Right. It's not the law. So.
No, it's not the law. No, it's up to you. A lot find it a bit hot, you know, once you're in this heat. Once you got a helmet on, it really runs off you.
With advice like that, it's not surprising tourists ride around unprotected.
It would help if the law was enforced. The law that says that no person who doesn't have a driving license should drive a motorbike. A law that says that everybody on a motorbike should be properly dressed and wear a crash helmet. But if there are very few policemen, the tendency is to forget about the law. And as it is a holiday place, people do have a tendency to forget even more than they would do at home.
So why don't the Greek authorities do something about the situation? Watchdog spoke to the Greek Ministry of Transport. They told us to speak to the Ministry of Public Order, who told us to speak to the Greek Traffic Police. They told us to go back to the Minister for Transport. He was too busy to talk to us. So it's a case of tourists looking after their own safety. No one else is going to do it for them. Florida, more than 1 million tourists from Britain arrive every year to the state with the highest crime rate in America. In 1993, there were 4,502 violent crimes against holidaymakers and 19 murders. The Tourist Board claimed to have improved the situation, so we went to find out.
It's a 10-hour flight from London, and by the time you've picked up your baggage, cleared immigration and gone through customs, you're pretty tired and disorientated. My body clock says it's about midnight, even though it's only 7 o'clock in the evening here, and I've still got to get on a bus before I can pick up my hire car.
But first, I've got to find the bus. And as you step out of the airport, you're knocked backwards by the humidity and confusion.
I do need your driver's license and credit card, please.
Does it automatically drive on the right?
Oh, well, we'll give you directions how to drive on our side of the road. We do have a map.
This is the point at which tourists really need to pay attention.
First traffic light is Northwest 37th Avenue.
Yeah.
You would go left. Got it? Then go under the bike path. This would be 836.
Even when you pick up your hire car, it's still pretty daunting finding yourself in the middle of an 8-lane freeway. The rules of the road are different, the signs are different. And no matter how many times the woman in the hire car place told me the directions, I'm still not entirely sure that I know where I'm going. Neither did Iris and Stanley Williams, who come from Surrey. They went to Florida last winter. They arrived at Miami Airport and went straight to the Dollar hire car office. As they left in their car, they suffered a terrifying experience.
We were flying back from the Caribbean into Miami to spend the last 2 or 3 nights in Fort Lauderdale before returning home to England. Unfortunately, the flight arrived at dusk, and by the time we'd picked up our bags and we'd got on the bus that the car hire people provide for you to drive you out to the area where you pick up your car hire, it was quite dark.
Iris and Stanley Williams asked for directions to the main freeway into the city. They took a right into South River Drive, but as they turned, they realised the freeway they needed, the 112, was in fact above them. They couldn't turn round. They had no choice but to drive on.
The sort of desperation was creeping in. I knew we were getting farther and farther away, and deeper into the area we shouldn't be in.
Iris got out the information sheet she'd been given at the Dollar rent-a-car office. It said,
If you are lost, do not stop. Keep driving until you find a well-lit garage.
We saw a garage on the corner and we pulled onto it. Our first reaction was we weren't very happy in the area we were in, but the young man who eventually gave us the final instruction to where we went seemed perfectly friendly and perfectly all right, and I had no reason to suspect that we were being given other than the right instructions to get where we wanted to get to.
As they pulled away, Iris noticed a car. She was sure it was following them. They took a turning to the right. Then the car pulled up beside them. It was the men from the petrol station.
An arm came out of the window and just pointed and said, "Up there." And I said, "Oh, that's nice of them. They've come to show us the way."
But it was a dead end. Stanley tried to do a 3-point turn. Before he could, the other car raced down the alley, blocking their escape route.
When the first assailant came from the car and you saw him coming towards the vehicle with his hand raised with a piece of concrete in it, he smashed the passenger's window, which shattered immediately. He grabbed the handbag, my wife's handbag. I reached over and pulled it back, put it between my legs, but the other assailant ran round the other side of the car, and his piece of concrete hitting the window, which was then only 4 inches away from my face, sounded like a pistol shot going off. I thought, God, I've been shot.
The second attacker wrestled the handbag from between Stanley's knees. On the passenger side of the car, the other man was trying to pull Iris out. He then leant in and made a grab for the car keys. Stanley pushed his arm away and rammed the car into reverse. He then accelerated forward and swerved past his attacker's car.
We then turned right, came out of this road, turned right and drove like a bat out of hell, which seemed like about 3 miles. Still in terrible danger because the car's falling to pieces and you're in a really danger. The windows are broken. I'm holding the door too. And a little way up the road we found a stationary police car at a set of traffic lights.
This is where Iris and Stanley were attacked. It's an area of Miami called Liberty City, and it's dangerous. We only came here with police protection. We're now only 5 minutes from Miami International Airport, and the freeway Iris and Stanley were trying to get onto is right behind me, but just one wrong turning brought them down here.
2 years ago, newspaper headlines like these made Miami look more like a war zone than a holiday destination. So the state went on a charm offensive. They set up the tourist-oriented police patrol, known as TOPS. They patrol the area surrounding Miami International Airport.
Fernandez? Or Savalas? No. I think everything is running smooth. Gonzalez? That's good. Okay, that's it, guys. Be careful, hit the street.
But there are only 23 members of the squad to operate cover 24 hours a day. It leaves protection for tourists pretty thin. New road signs telling you to follow the sun to main tourist destinations are designed to get you out of the area, though when they point in more than one direction, they're confusing. That and a few leaflets is the extent of what Florida has done to change the public's perception of the state. As far as they're concerned, it's business as usual.
The best advice I can give to anyone is that yes, the police are here. Yes, the police are doing a great job. Yes, we want your business, we want your tourism. We welcome you here with open arms, but the most important thing is using good common sense.
Orlando, 300 miles north of Miami. 2 summers ago, British tourist David Cornwall was shot outside his holiday home in Buenaventura Lakes. The local police told Watchdog the people responsible for attacks on tourists had been dealt with.
This is Buena Vista, just minutes from Disney. Yesterday, while we were filming here, we heard on the local news that another British tourist had been shot in this hotel car park.
Jan Cook and her sister-in-law Lisa, who's American, were returning to their motel room on the first evening of their holiday. As they got to the door, they were taken by surprise.
And this guy appeared from the left of me and walked past us and away from us, and then suddenly turned around and walked back towards us. And then?
Well, he approached me and mumbled something, and I didn't hear him, and I asked him what, and he said, "Give me your bag." And I said, "No." I didn't realize that he had a gun. He was hiding it just behind his hands, and then he lowered his hands and he said, "Give me your bag." And I continued to say no, just going into shock. And then he started to struggle with me and fired off 2 shots. And I actually swung to hit him in the head with my grocery bag with a bottle of wine. Didn't work, actually. And as he put his arm out to deflect it, the force knocked me to the ground. And as I was falling is when the shots went off.
Jan's shooting made big news in Britain. But in Orlando, the incident was more commonplace. Just days later, it was the turn of 2 Italian tourists to get shot. They were badly injured. The Florida Tourist Board says crimes against the tourist are down by more than half, but it remains dangerous. Miami muggers are likely to be carrying guns.
More than half the tourists heading for the United States will book a hire car for their holiday, and most of them will pay for it and arrange the insurance in advance. But still, when they arrive in America to pick the car up, often they're faced with an unexpected bill.
Alan Fido from Colchester took a fly drive package to Salt Lake City last August. When he booked his air tickets, he was told he would have to pay $323 for his Alamo hire car. This was his final bill. Collision damage waiver, $323. Top-up insurance, $324. Additional driver, $81. State taxes, $95. A total of $823, $500 more than he was expecting. He went back the next day and complained. Alamo agreed to waive $288 of his bill. Stanley Breton from Wakefield booked to go to Orlando last October. His fly drive package included free car hire from Dollar. When he arrived at Orlando Airport, he was presented with a bill for $385. Collision damage waiver, $184. Top-up insurance, $129. Additional driver, $72. Like most holidaymakers, Alan Fido and Stanley Breton agreed to pay. They didn't know enough about the charges to risk refusing. The state taxes were unavoidable and range from $6 a day in Florida to $18 a day in cities like Chicago. Collision damage waiver, CDW, can also be called loss damage waiver, or LDW. It's the most basic insurance that covers you for any damage to the car, whether it's your fault or not.
When you hire a car in Europe, third-party liability is automatically included. So if you run over a pedestrian and they sue, you're covered. But in the United States, your car insurance won't protect you, and neither will your travel insurance. That's why the car hire companies offer something called extra protection.
EP covers you for up to $1 million, but it will also add $9 a day to the cost of your hire car.
It is important to take out extra protection insurance, but much cheaper to pay for it in the UK before you go. Cost £70 for 2 weeks.
Too much sunlight is bad for your eyes. It can cause premature aging and cataracts, so it's sensible to wear sunglasses. They're sold for the purpose of protecting your eyes, but a lot of them don't.
Was a hot afternoon, last day of June, and the sun was a demon.
Ultraviolet rays from the sun are either UVA, which can cause cataracts, or UVB rays. They can damage the outer part of the eye, causing short-term problems with sight. Sunglasses should block both types, UVA and UVB, but not all of them do. In fact, wearing certain sunglasses can be worse for your eyes than no sunglasses at all. So how can you tell which ones are safe? A BSI logo or number shows that a pair of glasses have been tested and do block out the damaging UVA and UVB. But manufacturers aren't required to meet any standards. Watchdog tested a range of sunglasses not carrying the BSI logo. We took them to Moorfields Eye Hospital in London, where they were examined by an optometrist.
I put them on the machine called a spectrophotometer, which shines a light of every different wavelength through, and you get a trace of what the transmission is right across the ultraviolet and visible light spectrum. This is a good trace. It's not letting through a thing at less than 400,
which means it's cutting out all the UVA and UVB and meets the BSI standard.
Contrast it with this one. Look, it's letting through light starting at about 350.
Here, up to a quarter of UVA is getting through. In other words, there's a 25% transmission. So here are the test results. This pair of children's sunglasses cost 49p. They performed badly, letting through up to 30% of UVA and up to 15% of UVB. These dark glasses produced poor results. UVA penetration was up to 25%. These came with a label claiming UV eye protection against ultraviolet rays. In fact, they gave one of the worst test results, with up to 40% of UVA passing through the lenses. You might think that if your sunglasses at least block out some ultraviolet, then they're better than no sunglasses at all. But you'd be wrong.
If you're wearing a really dark lens, then the pupil will dilate, and the total amount of these rays that we want to avoid might get through. So it could be argued that a really bad sunglass is far worse than no sunglass at all.
All these pairs carry the BSI logo. They block all UVA and UVB. They cost little more than the pairs that don't.
It is a safe precaution to look at the labels, and it is worth spending a few bob extra to get something that has been through the stringent tests, rather than make the false economy. You only get one lot of eyes.
That's all from this Watchdog holiday report. Next Monday, Annie will be back with a regular edition of the programme. Do send us any holiday horrors you'd like us to investigate. Until next week, goodbye.
Next on BBC One, EastEnders, and the money seems to be running short.